Zoom in on global affairs with insightful debates and exclusive interviews. This is World Insight.
On the World Insight with Tian Wei today, how Europe is benefiting from cooperation with China for energy independence and realizing clean energy.
Europe has made some great contributions, but today, China's technology progress is leading the way.
The relationship with numerous partners all over China who are day in, day out deploying our technologies.
Greg, good to see you.
It's great to meet you here in Beijing.
I understand you're going to have some close interactions with your Chinese friends and potential counterparts. Tell me, what do you think you want to figure out with them within the short period of time during the entourage?
Yeah, so look, I've spent the last few years getting to know some incredible people and companies here in China. The reality is that in the world of energy, we're at the beginning of the next revolution. Europe has made some great contributions, but today, China's technology progress is leading the way. And I hope that together we can find ways to help the people of China have cleaner and cheaper energy, to help the people of Europe and the UK have cheaper and cleaner energy, and work together to bring that to the rest of the world. The European continent is still too dependent on fossil fuels. So if I look at the UK or maybe Germany, 70% of Germany's energy is imported. But the technologies of solar, wind, battery enable a country to produce its own electricity. And I think that's got to give them more security, but it helps bring costs down. It helps improve the quality of life. It not only tackles climate change, but it makes for cleaner air and quieter cities. I was just walking through Beijing and it's so much quieter now because all of the two-wheel vehicles are electric. Indeed. Most of the taxis, a lot of the cars, even buses and vans. I think that's an upgrade that we can bring everyone.
That's indeed true. Also the air, you probably have noticed.
The air is so much cleaner.
So much cleaner.
And for the first time last year, I went from Chinese cities, from Beijing, Shenzhen, Shanghai, to other countries, and realized that the other countries were noisier, and sometimes the air wasn't as clean. And I think that electrification is something that we can benefit the world with.
It is common sense that electrification is the way forward. But how to make sure that politics are not swaying in a pendulum from here to there to extremes, so that a business like yours can work with your counterparts that you have chosen?
I think in every industrial revolution, you're replacing some technologies of the old world with new technologies. And you always find the people who provide the technologies that power our existing world will struggle to handle the technology of the new world. And of course, when you talk about politics, the big change is just that some companies that have provided the power and the energy we need today are going to play a different role in the future. That change is hard, but we can help them through it. More importantly, though, we can help our citizens through it so that citizens get the benefits of more energy, cleaner energy, and cheaper energy. And during these times of change, there will always be some deep discussions and disinformation. But in the long run, physics, the laws of physics are the same everywhere, and physics wins.
Wind, solar, batteries, these are the areas that many Chinese companies are taking the lead worldwide. How to tap into their potential? Do you have some specific plans, especially providing solutions for Europe, which is now thirsty for energy?
Yeah, so I think today, some countries are thinking about, do they go back to fossil fuels, to gas and oil? And others are moving ahead with electrification. The difference is fossil fuels are mature. They're not going to get any better. The electric technologies, solar, wind, battery, are getting better every year. Yes. And so what I really want to do...
Every few months, so to speak.
Every few months, they're relentlessly getting better, getting cheaper. Batteries are getting smaller. Everything's getting better, more reliable. And so I think that if I can help countries understand that by working with these technologies, they're going to be improving their economy, they're going to be improving the quality of life of citizens, that in 10 years' time, there'll be a very, very big gap between those that have electrified and those that haven't. Let's electrify.
Competition, complementary. How do you understand the relationship between these two?
Sport is no good if you have a team from the top division playing an amateur team. Sport works when competitors are both roughly equally good. You want great competition between those who are kind of have all got a lot to give, and I think that's really important. So, Manchester United need Liverpool, right? Yes. And in the same way, countries need to be sort of friends and also competitors, but a good way. We want to be in the same division.
But there has been a lot of concern whether the Chinese products will flood the British market or the European market, and as a result of that, whether that is, safe for the national security, and the list goes on. As a real practitioner in the field, what is your thoughts about all of these concerns, so to speak?
I think first of all we have to respect those concerns. We have to understand that countries have always been concerned about national security. And in today's world, countries are right to be concerned about national security.
If they know what exactly is the national security they're talking about.
So national security is complex. Energy security, cyber security, and so on. Military security. But I think that if I look specifically at energy, we can create great national security when we can generate our own electricity rather than having to rely every day on imports from other countries. Now, if countries are worried about things like cyber security attached to energy, we can build solutions that mean, I hope that we're friends. But even if we're not friends, we can have secure solutions that enable us to keep on using these bits of equipment. This is a solvable problem.
Earlier, I was talking to the chair of the CPBC and talking about the concerns both in the UK and in China from the business community of the shifting limits of policies, the flip-flop of policies, the predictability or lack of predictability of policies. As a business community leader, in a way, what do you think is the way to go? How much the policymakers should really consult the business communities to get the facts rather than hearsay and daresay?
Look, you really discover what's going to work when you use it. The longer we spend arguing and waving our hands, the less we can actually test and build the solutions that will power our economies for the future. Now, the reality is that predictability is great, stability is great, but even in a world where you have less predictable instability, if we can act now, then we can secure more solutions that are in place, whatever may happen.
Now, when it comes to Europe and energy, you provide, as far as I understand, 20 million users with your service. That's very impressive, especially right now. How do you see the latest changes in policies, particularly regarding fossil fuels and renewable energy, both inside the policy framework of Brussels and also in individual countries on the European continent?
Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words. But I recognize that the scale of China means that if my company helped tens of millions of people, mainly in Europe, but in other countries as well, being here in China, we can work to help hundreds of millions of people. I mean, I find that incredibly exciting. I think that when I look at my customers, I think about things like you mentioned fossil fuels there. Our customers everywhere want the same thing. They want cheap, reliable energy, and by the way, if it doesn't contribute to climate change, then they'll be happier. But the reality is that for everyone, almost everyone we serve anywhere in the world, affordability is the most important thing. So I think when I'm here, what I'm trying to say is the world should not have to choose between expensive clean energy and cheap fossil fuels. We need to give them cheap, clean energy so that they don't have to choose between their immediate needs and the long term. And that's what I think cooperation on the best technologies can achieve.
I have noticed an urgency the British and also, shall I say, as a whole, European businesses are feeling in terms of global competition and cooperation. Now, we understand Europe is in the process of streamlining its priorities, its partnerships, and to restructure the kind of relationship with some of the biggest powers. So, as a business leader, how do you read the process of this? And what does that mean, do you think, might be for your business environment for the next few years to come?
So, like many mature economies, Europe has been growing slowly. It's growing slowly because the industries that have built the prosperity of today don't hold all the solutions for the prosperity of tomorrow. As European leaders look at that slower growth and say, how can we improve economic growth? I think, for example, some of the technologies that we can find here in China enable us to say, look, we can create great growth for the future in these areas working together. Now, I think that's become more urgent for European leaders because in a more complex world, they're going to have to take responsibility for their future. And that means looking around the world for the right ingredients. And I think they'll find some of them here. But I also hope, look, what do I love about China? The people. When I'm here in China, I discover that, first of all, we've got more in common than we have in difference. Yes. I feel as natural walking around these cities as I do around the cities of Europe or anywhere else. And I discover people are very interested in the things that we can bring to the party, and I'm very interested in what they can bring. And that kind of mutual understanding, looking for common
mutual
ground
curiosity,
first.
mutual understanding.
Yeah, and then, when I visited a research and development campus in Guangdong, and the buildings were based on buildings in the rest of the world, on Heidelberg, on Paris, and on Oxford. How exciting is it to be European, to see that the inspirations from our world are here, and for us to respect the inspirations we can take back?
China is going to peak in terms of carbon, in 2030. And we're going to see that process definitely going to be implemented. But at the same time, we do see some setbacks in Europe, for example, about these original goals in terms of timing, not to mention the United States. So how do you read the potential landscape of your markets worldwide? How do you prepare for all options?
First of all, technology always wins. And so, if we look at the US, the state with the most renewables is Texas. Texas is the home to the oil industry. But increasingly, because Texas, allows people to build things, what they're building is solar power and wind and a lot of batteries. California powers its evenings now on electricity from batteries. And Australia put batteries into 100,000 homes in 3 months. This is happening everywhere. And if I look at
Middle East as well.
The Middle East,
Southeast Asia.
Exactly. I was in Saudi Arabia. They're building 70 gigawatts of solar power. To put that in perspective, my country, the UK, is a 50 gigawatt system. Right, so it's happening, and it's happening because of the engineering, the technology, and the economics. And so Europe was an early mover. And what happened is Europe has built a lot of clean energy technology, but it did it when it was expensive. If they look at the cost now, everything they build going forward will get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. They need to do that.
Coming up, blazing renewable energy cooperation between China and Europe, in the words of Schneider Electric Chair Jean-Pascal Tricoire. Next. Tell me more about whether the China approach and suggestions fit into your future growth agenda.
The relationship with numerous partners all over China who are day in, day out deploying our technologies.
Zoom in on global affairs with insightful debates and exclusive interviews. This is World Insight.
Lao Zhao, good to see you.
Very good to see you, as always.
Tell me more about whether the China approach and suggestions fit into your future growth agenda.
What China has defined with the 15th five-year plan is very clear as a direction. And we know where a company like Schneider can contribute. We can help our partners, our customers in China, communities in China, to get cleaner power, to get digitized, and to get the best of automation. And this is what we have been doing in China for the past 40 years. I had the privilege to start Schneider in China a long time ago, and I've seen our operations flourishing, but more important so, the relationship with numerous partners all over China who are day in, day out, deploying our technologies.
Of course, the world is getting ever more fragmented, apparently. So what does that mean for your China operation? What does that mean for your cooperation with China for the rest of the world?
Look, we had that vision from the beginning that China is so large, and it has so many specific needs, and it has so many talents that we should develop in China for China and then for the world. But what it means is that today, not only we have 28 factories manufacturing in China with Chinese suppliers, products, systems, solutions, digital solutions that we sell to our customers, but also we have 10 R&D centers for innovation. And that innovation is first focused on the China market, developing a digital space, a power space, which is adapted to China's specificities, but also taking those offers to the world. So what you say, a fragmented or bifurcated world, China, Schneider China, is a very autonomous company, able to develop in terms of R&D, industrialize, sell and service all the products and solutions which are the most adapted to the China market.
Very interesting. So that's an arrangement recently made?
That's something we put into place 25 years ago. You know, when you want to develop R&D, it's not something that you do that is operational the next day. You need to attract the talents, you need to train people on the best of your technologies, and then they will innovate. So every investment we do in China is for the next decades. We are opening at the moment 2 new factories. Yes. They will be here for the next decades. When you open an R&D center, it will be there for a long time, and we wish it to develop and to flourish and to be there forever. And then you develop partnerships, and partnerships are also long-term partnerships. But this doesn't stop the borders of China. As China is developing abroad along the Belt and Road, we are carrying those partnerships outside of China. And we are doing more partnerships with Chinese companies outside of China.
You hear policy punchlines from different parts of the world. For example, here in Europe, there has been talk about Europe independence.
Yeah.
In China, there has been talk about indigenous innovation.
Yeah.
In the United States, it's been talking about national security and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's my words. So how do you see these different rhetorics coming from different regions? And how do you, as a global company, try to work the system together so systematically it can work for you?
Look, Europe is big, China is big. So by definition, needs in Europe, needs in China that we are originated from different histories are not the same. So if you want to be relevant to your customers, you have to be fast, because customers want a solution for yesterday. They have no patience to wait for something that would take time to be adapted to their needs. So for us, would it be in Europe? Would it be in the US? But more so in China, which is moving so fast, what's important is speed and the very close contact with our customers. So we do it with local teams who make local decisions and who have their own capabilities to develop things. Now, if you look across Europe and China, what strikes me is that we have very common needs. We don't have natural resources fossil fuels, right? So the natural need or the natural direction is to go electrical. At the end of the day, if you believe, and we believe that the future is electric, and China believes definitely that the future is electric, then there are a lot of directions for innovation that are put in or that are gathering our forces in the same direction. I also see that both China and Europe are very committed to decarbonization, on sustainability, reconcile progress on sustainability for all. And this is probably the challenge of our generation. And what's exciting is that now technology, electrification, and digitalization allow us to achieve more while using less of resources and actually being energy positive. And this is something we profoundly share as a direction between China, I would say Asia, and Europe. So great terrain of common innovation and common collaboration. And at the end of the day, climate change is not China or Europe. It's a common challenge and probably one of the biggest challenges of our generation.
You developed your company in Asia, in China, but at the same time, you are certainly running all over the world, including here in Europe, where your home base is. How would you interpret the latest challenges Europe as a whole is facing, and what could that be translated into solutions provided by your company or your industry?
Number one, every geography has to change with time, right? Technology is moving, the balance of geopolitics are moving, so Europe is in an intense moment of questioning, of reformatting, of evolution. But it can be said, we can say that of most of the geographies today. Things are changing faster and faster. So Europe doesn't escape that global logic and needs to change. I personally, as a European, think that being Europe is really important because each country in Europe is too small to be relevant in a world of larger and larger countries. And if I look back at history, well, Europe has come a very long way, right? We have one currency. Most of our companies are completely trans-European. Most of our citizens now have a career or life across boundaries. So things have changed a lot. We always complain in Europe, it's probably one of feature of Europeans. There's been a lot of progress on that side. Then on the side of technology, in Europe, I see more integration, more simplicity, less regulation, more space to innovation, and more collaboration with other continents, including China.
Running a business with that nature as you just described, what are some of your suggestions if you are asked to the policymakers? Because right now we still see a lot of obstacles about cooperation.
I don't think there are those many obstacles for those collaborations. I think it takes a coalition of the willings, people who want to do things together. It's very difficult for any company to do by itself all across the world. When we started in China, and it's still the case today, by the way, we operated with a lot of joint ventures. And it's still today, and they are very successful. I think for Chinese companies to deploy across the world, it needs that approach of collaborate with local companies. It's clear that for a company like Schneider, we know how to work with Chinese companies. We've been working now for many decades in China, and we have a very large presence in China. We have 28,000 people in China. We are a very large company. We work with thousands of suppliers every day in China. So the capacity to deploy what's done in China outside of the world, I think, is the next phase of our history. Being able to work together outside of our borders on leverage technologies and carry them to customers.
Earlier, I was having a conversation with a leading thinker of technology, including AI. He's been suggesting, he's an American, suggesting that Europe should have its own large language models of its own data centers, energy supplies, and everything of its own. Of course, that's his proposal. What about someone like you, who has been in your business in the critical part of the global supply chain now? And obviously feeling very proud as a European citizen. What do you think is the solution out pragmatically, step by step for Europe?
We have nice pieces of technology in Europe, right? Most of the supply chains today run on European software, which has become a reference in the world. And we have also our own AI companies which are developing, right? So I've no doubt that with the number of graduates and people that we have in Europe, you're going to see more models of any sort developing in Europe. Now, I don't see a world which will be completely fragmented. I think there is no point. Some models are open source. Actually, it's been the principal or the preferred avenue for China. And when it's open source, I mean, why not use it and create the next layer of differentiation for each vertical?
Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Always a great pleasure to meet you.
That's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei. Bye for now.